Hey everybody, I'm out here at the Grand Canyon. I'm on the South Rim. We are currently under sort of like a strict lockdown with the coronavirus going on. And we have no tourists here in the park, so it's been a lot of fun for us to get out and actually take advantage of the Grand Canyon with no tourists. It's been pretty amazing. And I have to say that we're blessed because we have access to the park on the rim. We can't go into the canyon itself as of yet, and it's fine by me. I'm quite happy to be out here on the rim. There are lots of places you can go on the rim, and yeah, a lot of people want to go in the rim, into the canyon itself, but they don't have enough staff here from MPS to accommodate any kind of potential injuries. So, and then just stay down there and pay attention to us. So, right now we're on the surface, which is great. But one of the cameras that I have right now that has been sort of a lot of fun to play with since I've been out here, I've had this device for about a month now, and this is the Panasonic Lumix fz80. And the fz80 is great because it's got significant reach. I'll show you the reach that it has. And this is a point and shoot, but the reach is pretty impressive. It's 20 millimeters out to 1200. It's an 18 megapixel resolution, but that's at an aspect ratio of 4:3. And then, of course, the aspect ratio changes to 3:2, and that drops down to 16 megapixels, and then 16:9 drops all the way down to like 13 megapixels. But either way, you can actually take pictures in RAW as well as JPEG. So you can get some nice size files, and the average JPEG file of this is about 8 megabytes, which is decent, 7.5 to 8 megabytes, so you still have a decent sized file to work with. It's much better than the phones, because the phones shrink it all the way down to like 3.5 to 4 megabytes, which is very small. Again, the RAW files are anywhere from 17 to like almost 20 megabytes per photo, depending on what you're actually taking a picture of. In its widest format, the f-stop is right around f2.8, and it goes out to f5.9, and again, you can play around with the different settings and the distance and everything else. If you have the right settings, I leave it on aperture priority. All I have to do is just change the exposure and then maybe the white balance, and that's it. And I can really get some fantastic shots out here. The main reason I got this, two main reasons I got this, really, it has the capacity to take time-lapse in 4K. That means that you can actually zoom in the canyon into some fog banks, some rainstorms, some clouds, some really awesome looking clouds or whatever it is, and do a time-lapse, convert it from 1080p to 4K. That's impressive for a sub $300 device. This is fantastic from that perspective. I won't get too involved in this camera. The specs are out there. One of the people that does a fantastic job with highlighting everything about this camera is Graham Houghton out of the UK. He does an awesome job. Graham, thank you. Fantastic job. You inspired me to do what you had suggested with your accessories. He has a video in reference to the accessories and does a fantastic job. I went ahead and took his advice and got an eye cup from Nikon and glued it onto the outside here, so you have something nice and soft you can use with your glasses and so on and so on. And then I got a screen protector and then a lens hood, which is great. And I got a tripod, a small tripod and a big tripod. Yeah, you can have some fun with this. You could do bracketing, you can do, like I said, mentioned time-lapse. You can change the frame rate with the time-lapse. This is really cool. And also the panorama. You can change the exposure, you can change the white balance, you can change the shutter speed. I just double check on the shutter speed. I think it's just the exposure and the white balance on the panorama mode, which is great. And you get a decent sized file, 20 to 25 megabytes for that file, and get some really nice dynamic range on those incredible panorama shots. The phone does a panorama also, but it does not have the settings to change exposure as well as the white balance. So you're kind of stuck with a fixed setting, which is a kind of a bummer. But I have to say, I've been very, very impressed with this camera. It's got macro, it's got macro zoom, so you can sit there and take pictures of flowers, video of flowers. It shoots 4K video at 30 FPS and blah blah blah. You can change the frame rate inside the camera through the menu. The menu system is easy. It's so easy to figure out. But that's only if you understand cameras. If you don't understand cameras, you can get lost. It takes a while to go through the menu. But once you understand how to do that, it's great. And it has a setting on here, silent mode. DSLRs do not have silent mode. They say they do, they have quiet mode, but either Nikon was not quiet, the Canon is not quiet. It's supposed to just lift the mirror up and just use the shutter release, but without the actual mirror. But the thing is it's just one shot. I can do burst shots of 10 frames a second in silent mode. The same thing happens on the fz8000, and there are other cameras that also offer that. There are mirrorless that can do that, but DSLRs are lacking from that perspective, and that's understandable. But again, this is not a DSLR. You cannot compare it to a DSLR. It's like trying to compare a Mini against a Tesla P100. Huge difference in price, huge difference in speed, acceleration, all that stuff, and with those vehicles. So you can't compare those two. One's got 150 horsepower or 220 horsepower, and the other one's got like 800 horsepower. So there's a huge difference in quality and speed and everything else. Same thing goes for these devices. So you can't compare something like this to a Sony a7 III, which is a full frame, or a Sony a6500 or an a6400 or anything like that. They're totally different devices altogether. Anyway, my score so far on this device has been a 9 out of 10 for the kind of device it is, the kind of sensor that it offers, and what it can produce. Righty ho. Again, it shoots in RAW and JPEG. Cheers.